My name is Evelyn Carter, and at 68 years old, I'd long since convinced myself that life in Willow Creek, Ohio held no more curveballs. This sleepy town, nestled between the rolling hills of Medina County and the lazy bend of the Cuyahoga River, had been my anchor for nearly 5 decades. It was the kind of place where neighbors waved from porches painted the color of faded denim, and the air always carried the faint tang of motor oil and fresh-cut grass. I thought I'd seen it all. The lean years scraping by on Tom's mechanic wages, the joy of raising our 2 kids, Laura and Ben, in that cozy bungalow on Elm Street with its creaky wooden floors and the wraparound porch where we'd swing on lazy summer evenings. But nothing could have prepared me for the shadow that fell over my world last spring when Tom died. Tom was my rock, plain and simple. For 45 years, he fixed more than cars in that little garage behind our house. He fixed our dreams. He'd roll up his sleeves at dawn, grease-blackened hands steady as a surgeon's, coaxing life back into engines that had given up the ghost. "Ev, life's like an old Ford," he'd say with that lopsided grin wiping sweat from his brow. "Sometimes you just gotta tinker a bit to get her purring again." We met in high school back in 1968 when I was a shy girl with braids and dreams of being a nurse, and he was the boy who could make a bicycle fly. Our wedding was a simple affair in the Methodist church on Main Street, vows exchanged under stained glass windows that painted us in hues of gold and crimson. We built our life penny by penny. I waitressed at the diner downtown, saving tips for Laura's ballet lessons and Ben's Little League gear, while Tom turned his passion into a small auto repair business that kept the wolves from the door. Our kids were the light of our lives. Laura, the older by 2 years, came first in 1972, a bundle of curls and curiosity, always with her nose in a book or sketching wildflowers in her notebook. She was the peacemaker, the one who'd smooth over Ben's tantrums with a hug and a story. Ben, born in 74, was fire and fury from the start. Dark hair like Tom's, eyes that sparkled with mischief, and a laugh that could fill a room. As toddlers, they'd chase fireflies in the backyard, their giggles echoing off the garage walls. We weren't rich, God no, but we were wealthy in the ways that mattered. Family dinners around the oak table I'd refinished myself, Sunday drives to the lake where Tom taught them to skip stones, holidays strung with popcorn garlands and the scent of my apple pie baking in the oven. That bungalow wasn't much, a 2-story clapboard with peeling blue paint and a tin roof that sang in the rain, but it was ours. Every nail held a memory. The spot in the kitchen where Tom proposed with a ring he'd sized by tracing my finger on a napkin, the nail in the hallway where we hung Ben's first place ribbon from the county fair soapbox derby. As the years rolled on like the Ohio River in flood season, the kids grew. Laura headed off to nursing school in Cleveland, met a sweet accountant named Mike, and settled into a life of quiet stability, popping back home with grandkids in tow for holidays. Ben was different. From a young age, his ambition burned hot. "Dad, why settle for fixing Fords when you could own the showroom?" he'd say, 16 and already eyeing the glossy ads in Automotive Monthly. Tom would chuckle, ruffling his hair. "Son, owning's fine, but building's what lasts." But Ben chafed at the grease under his nails, the long hours for modest pay. He bolted for Columbus after high school, landing a sales gig at a flashy dealership on the outskirts of the city. "Big leagues, Mom," he'd boast on his sporadic calls, voice crackling over the line. "Suits and sedans, none of that small-town rust bucket stuff." At first, we were proud. Ben climbed fast, junior salesman to manager in 5 years, then his own corner office by 35. He married Carla, a sharp realtor with a smile like polished chrome and a taste for the high life. Designer bags, weekend getaways to the Keys. They bought a McMansion in the suburbs, the kind with marble counters and a 3-car garage that echoed with emptiness. But success came at a cost. Visits grew rare, squeezed between deals closing and networking events. When they did show, it was with pitying glances at our bungalow. "Mom, this place is falling apart," Ben would say, kicking at a loose floorboard. "The roof's leaking again. Remember that storm last winter? Sell it. Move into assisted living. Carla knows a spot in Medina, all the amenities." Carla would nod, her manicured nails tapping impatiently. "You deserve to relax, Evelyn. Tom's gone." "Wait, no, that's not, after everything, Tom." Even saying his name now twists the knife. He was 72 when it happened, still puttering in the garage every morning like clockwork. His hands, once strong as oak, had softened with age, knuckles gnarled from decades of wrenches and spark plugs, but his spirit, unbroken. We'd talk on the porch at dusk, iced tea sweating in mason jars, about the grandkids' latest antics or the neighbor's new pup. "Ev, life's too short for regrets," he'd say, squeezing my hand. "We did good, you and me." Then last April, spring just budding, dogwoods blushing pink along Elm Street, the call came. It was Ben on the line, voice clipped and urgent. "Mom, it's Dad. Accident at the shop. Ambulance took him to Medina General. Get here now." I plummeted, fumbled for my keys, hands shaking so bad I dropped them twice. Doris, our neighbor across the street, A widow herself with a heart as big as Lake Erie drove me, her old Chevy rattling over potholes. The 10 miles felt like eternity, my mind a whirlwind of what-ifs. Tom was careful, obsessive about safety. Ladders tied off, tools racked neat. How could this happen? The ER waiting room was a blur of fluorescent lights and stale coffee. Ben was there already, pacing like a caged panther. Carla perched on a plastic chair, scrolling her phone. What happened? I gasped, clutching Ben's arm. He pulled me into a hug that felt more obligation than comfort, stiff, perfunctory. Freak thing, Mom. Engine block on the hoist slipped, crushed him under it. Docs say it's bad, real bad. His eyes were dry, voice flat as Ohio asphalt. Laura arrived 20 minutes later, eyes red-rimmed, throwing her arms around me. "Oh, Mom," she whispered, holding tight. We waited hours, the clock ticking like a bomb. Finally, the doctor emerged, Dr. Harlan, a kind-faced man with wireframe glasses. "Mrs. Carter, I'm sorry. Massive internal injuries. He didn't suffer long. The world grayed at the edges. Tom, gone, just like that." I collapsed into Laura's arms, sobs racking my body like winter gales. Ben stood apart, murmuring condolences to the doctor, something about paperwork and insurance. Carla fetched coffee no one drank. They kept me sedative that night, a merciful fog. But grief clawed through by morning. Ben handled the arrangements with eerie efficiency. The funeral home in town, a simple oak casket, service at St. Mary's on Saturday. Dad wouldn't want a fuss, he said, signing forms I barely glanced at. Laura and I picked Tom's suit, the gray wool from our 35th anniversary, and a photo for the program, him grinning beside a restored 57 Chevy, arms around Ben and Laura at ages 10 and 12. The funeral dawned gray and drizzly, the kind of Ohio spring day that seeps into your bones. St. Mary's was half full, a smattering of old shop buddies and flannel shirts, Doris and a few neighbors, Mike with the grandkids fidgeting in their seats. Father O'Malley spoke of eternal rest and the Lord's mysterious ways, his voice a gentle drone. Ben delivered the eulogy, words polished like his sales pitches. Tom Carter was a man of his hands, a fixer of broken things. He taught us all that family is the real engine. Applause was polite, muted. Carla dabbed her eyes with a silk handkerchief. Laura gripped my hand, knuckles white. We processed to Willow Creek Cemetery, a procession of taillights snaking through mist-shrouded lanes. The graveside was intimate, just immediate family under a canvas tent flapping in the wind. The kids, our grandkids, Emma and little Jack, tossed wildflowers onto the lowering casket, their faces streaked with confusion and tears. I stood there, veil fluttering, the earth swallowing the man who'd been my everything. The finality hit like a wrench to the gut. No more porch talks, no more grease-smeared kisses, no more Tom. As the casket settled into the Ohio soil with a muffled thud, my phone buzzed in my purse, an insistent vibration against my thigh. I fumbled it out, screen blurring through tears. Unknown number. I'm not gone. That's not me below. Trust no one. Especially Ben. The world tilted. My breath caught, fingers numb as I typed, "Who is this?" The reply was instant. A friend of Tom's. "They're closing in. Watch your back." Heart hammering, I glanced up. Ben was 10 feet away, head bowed in pretended prayer, but his eyes flicked to his watch. Carla murmured something to Laura, who nodded absently. The pastor intoned the Lord's Prayer, but the words drowned in the roar of blood in my ears. Was this a cruel prank? Grief's hallucination? Or something worse? The reception back at the house was a haze. Casseroles piled on the counter, neighbors pressing my arm with whispers of strength and time heals. Ben and Carla stayed late, clearing plates with mechanical precision. "Mom, you shouldn't be alone," Ben said, loading the dishwasher. "Come stay with us in Columbus. The house. It's too much now." His tone was solicitous, but his eyes, those eyes that mirrored Tom's so perfectly, held a glint I couldn't place. Pity or calculation? Laura shot him a look. "Ben, give her space. Mom's tougher than she looks." He shrugged, flashing that salesman smile. "Just looking out for you, sis." They left around dusk, taillights fading down Elm Street. I collapsed on the couch, the silence deafening without Tom's snores from the recliner. The texts burned in my mind. I scrolled back, rereading. I'm not gone. Impossible. I'd held his hand in the hospital. The weeks after Ben's arrest blurred into a fever dream of depositions and district attorneys, the kind of nightmare that seeps into your bones and lingers like exhaust fumes. Willow Creek, once a cocoon of quiet routines, transformed into a fishbowl. Reporters camped on Elm Street, their vans idling like predators. Microphones thrust at me as I fetched mail. "Mrs. Carter, did you suspect? How does it feel to turn in your own son?" I'd push past, head down, Doris shielding me with her umbrella like a knight's shield. Inside the bungalow, solitude was my only ally. Nights pacing the kitchen, replaying Tom's journal entries until the words etched scars on my soul. Betrayal wasn't just Ben's greed. It was the erosion of trust, the slow rust of family bonds we'd forged over decades. Laura became my lifeline. She drove down from Cleveland every weekend, grandkids in tow, Emma with her braids and questions, Jack clutching a toy wrench like a talisman. "Grandma, why is Uncle Ben in trouble?" Emma asked one Saturday, crayon in hand, drawing a house with happy family stick figures. I knelt, smoothing her hair. "Sometimes people make bad choices, sweetie, but we fix them, like Grandpa fixed cars." Lies, half-truths, to shield innocence. Laura and I talked late into the nights, wine loosening tongues. "I saw signs, Mom," she confessed over mugs of chamomile. "Ben's calls, always about money, never us. Last Christmas, he eyed the house like inventory. But murder? God, how did we miss it?" We'd cry then, arms around each other, the oak table bearing witness to our unraveling. Jack Harlan was a godsend. His gravelly voice a steady rumble on the phone. "DA's building airtight, Ev. Audio's gold. Talks confirms sedatives. Ben spilling to his lawyer, claims desperation, not malice. Loan sharks breathing down his neck. Desperation! The word curdled my blood. Ben's empire, that gleaming dealership with its showroom sheen, had been a house of cards. Court docs revealed the rot. $150,000 in high-interest loans from Columbus underworld types, bad bets on luxury imports that sat unsold through a recession dip. Carla's real estate flips tanked too, foreclosures looming on their McMansion. They needed quick cash, Jack explained over coffee at the Rusty Nail, our new haunt. Tom's policy? Windfall. House? Collateral. You? Loose end. He slid over affidavits, the funeral director's confession, bribed with $5,000 to swap caskets, Tom's body rushed to a pauper's plot under John Doe, the accident victim planted in our plot for closure. Carla turned state's evidence first, her polished facade cracking under plea deals. "It was Ben's idea, Evelyn," she wept in a deposition video Jack screened for me. "The hoist, the drugs, I begged him to stop. But the debts, they threatened us. Tears, crocodile, I thought. But the DA lapped it up, reduced charges for testimony. Ben, stonewalling. His lawyer spinning tales of familial pressure and accidental overdose. Lies. The recordings didn't lie. His voice plotting my slip, a sabotage stare at the bungalow, grief as alibi. "Mom's old, falls happen," he'd sneered. Chills raced my spine even now, months later. The trial opened in Akron's Summit County Courthouse that July, sweltering heat pressing against stone walls like judgment's weight. I arrived early, Laura at my elbow, Jack a silent sentinel behind. The gallery buzzed. Reporters from the Plain Dealer, true crime podcasters, Willow Creek locals whispering behind programs. Ben entered an orange jumpsuit, shackles clinking, a ghost of the boy who'd raced bikes down Elm. His eyes found mine across the room, pleading, then hardening to accusation. Carla sat Rose back, head bowed, her alliance with the prosecution a fresh wound. Prosecutor Elena Vasquez was a force, 40s, sharp suit, voice like tempered steel. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, pacing the well, "this isn't a tragedy of fate. It's a calculated betrayal by a son who viewed his father not as family, but as a financial fix." She cued the audio, Ben's words booming, one nudge on that hoist, inheritance early. Gasps rippled, a juror paled. Photos followed, the cutters, the bribe envelope, talks charts spiking red, sedatives in coffee, Mr. Carter's thermos, laced by his own son. Then the cover, falsified reports, a swapped grave. Vasquez turned to me. "Mrs. Carter, you trusted your boy. He repaid that with murder." My testimony came day 2, a walk to the stand feeling like the Green Mile. The Bible, heavy in my hand, oath sworn, Vasquez gentle. "Tell us about Tom, Mrs. Carter." I spoke of our life. The dances, the dreams, the bungalow's heartbeat, voice cracking. "He fixed everything but this. Ben, he was our spark. Ambitious, yes, but we thought it was pride, not poison." The recordings played again. I relived the diner horror, tears tracing familiar paths. Cross-exam, Ben's lawyer, a slick weasel named Hargrove, probed, "Mrs. Carter, grief clouds judgment. Texts from a friend could be a scam. Your son's just trying to help with the house. I met his eyes, steel in mine. Help? He stole $20,000, forged my husband's name, buried a stranger to cash the policy. That's not help, Mr. Hargrove. That's hate. Witnesses piled on. Sergeant Ruiz on the missing report, the coroner, face ashen, admitting the $10,000 hush money. Jack's testimony sealed cracks. Tom hired me April 1st. Watch Ben, Jack. Something's off in his eyes. The recordings again. Ben's plot for me. Slip and fall. Easy cover. Jurors shifted. A woman dabbed tears. Carla took the stand last for the state, voice quavering. Ben researched the sedatives online. I saw the browser history. Pleaded with him. Hargrove shredded her. You benefited, Mrs. Carter. Joint accounts drained. She crumbled, but damage stuck. Defense, a desperate scramble. Hargrove painted Ben as victim. Debts crushed him, sharks at the door. A tragic lapse, not premeditation, manslaughter at worst. Character witnesses, old dealership clients swearing Ben's cart of gold. But the jury, a cross-section of Ohio grit, mill workers, teachers, a nurse like Laura, saw through. Deliberations stretched 3 days. The wait agony. I paced hotel rooms with Laura. Jack's flask passed in silence. Will he walk? No, Jack grunted. Evidence is a noose. Verdict at 4 p.m., day 4. Courtroom thick with tension, air electric. Foreman arose. On count of first-degree murder, guilty. Murmurs erupted. Ben sighed, face ashen. Conspiracy to commit murder against Evelyn Carter, guilty. Fraud and forgery, guilty. The gavel cracked like thunder. Sentencing swift. Judge Harlan, no kin to Jack, stern. Mr. Carter, you extinguished a good man's light for greed's shadow. Life, no parole. Ben's wail echoed as they led him away. Raw, broken. Mom, I didn't. Please. But please fell on exhumed ground. Aftermath washed over like autumn rain. Cleansing, cold. Carla got 5 years probation, community service. Her McMansion sold at auction, debt settled. She vanished to Florida, a ghost in holiday cards. Laura and I mended slow, family therapy in Cleveland, grandkids bridging gaps. We lost a brother, Mom, she said one fall evening, raking leaves. But we have each other. The insurance, $100,000. Blood money went to the Mechanics' Widow Fund, a charity Tom would have championed. Applications poured in. Women like me left adrift. I volunteered, matching grants over coffee, feeling Tom's nod in every check cut. The bungalow, I poured sweat equity into revival. New roof with Laura's help, porch swing refinished, glossy. Tom's garage transformed. Community space for neighborhood kids. Tools donated, classes on basic repairs. Grandpa's legacy, I told the first group. Wide-eyed boys and girls in oversized aprons. Jack became fixture. Wednesdays at the Rusty Nail, then porch beers. His story's a balm. Tom was smart, Ev. Hired me because he smelled the smoke. Romance? No. Companionship. The quiet kind. Age allows. You fixed yourself, he said once, sunset gilding his beard. Stronger than any engine. 5 years on, at 73, Willow Creek feels renewed. Reporters faded. Scandal legend now. Whispered at diners. Carter widow, tough as nails. I sipped tea on the porch, wind whispering through dogwoods. Emma and Jack chasing fireflies like their dad once did. Betrayal broke us, shattered the family portrait, but truth rebuilt, brick by loving brick. Greed took my son, turned him to a stranger. But love, it kept my soul, oiled and purring. Tom's shadow lingers, not dark, but guiding. In the garage, kids tinker under fluorescent hum, and I smile, knowing some things, once fixed, run forever.